My name is Rebecca. I am 37 years old. For nearly 18 years, I believed I had the perfect marriage. My husband David was 10 years older than me. We met when I was young and full of dreams. He was confident, successful, and charming. When he asked me to marry him, I felt like the luckiest woman in the world. Together we built a life. We bought a small house in the suburbs. We had 2 children, a son named Ethan and a daughter named Lily. Every morning I packed lunches, helped with homework, cleaned the house, and made dinner before David came home from work. It wasn't an exciting life, but it was ours, and I loved it. At least I thought I did. Looking back now, I realized the cracks appeared long before I noticed them. David stopped asking about my day. He stopped holding my hand. He stopped looking at me the way he once did. At first, I blamed stress, then work, then age. I found excuses because the truth was too painful to imagine. One evening, David came home smelling like a perfume I didn't own. When I asked about it, he laughed. "You worry too much." I wanted to believe him. So I did. Months passed, the distance between us grew larger. He worked later, traveled more often, kept his phone face down on the table. Sometimes he smiled at messages and quickly locked the screen when I walked by. A cold feeling settled in my stomach. One afternoon, while organizing paperwork, I found a hotel receipt inside his jacket pocket. 2 guests, 1 room. A date during a business trip. My hands shook. My heart raced. I sat on the kitchen floor staring at that piece of paper for almost an hour. Deep down, I already knew. That night I confronted him. At first he denied everything. Then he became angry. Finally, he admitted the truth. There was another woman. Her name was Natalie. They had been seeing each other for over a year. The room felt smaller. The air disappeared from my lungs. I wanted to scream. Instead, I just sat there in silence. The next few weeks were a blur. David promised he was confused. He promised he needed time. He promised many things. But his actions never changed. He continued seeing her, and every promise became another lie. The hardest part wasn't losing my husband. It was watching my children suffer. Ethan stopped talking during dinner. Lily cried herself to sleep. They could feel the tension even when nobody spoke about it. One evening, I overheard Lily asking her brother a question. "Do you think Dad doesn't love us anymore?" My heart shattered. No child should ever wonder that. For months I waited for David to choose us. I waited for apologies, for honesty, for change. None of it came. Instead, he moved out. Just like that. 1 suitcase, 1 goodbye, 1 slammed door, and 18 years of marriage ended. The weeks that followed were the darkest of my life. I barely slept. I barely ate. Then one morning, something unexpected happened. Lily came into the kitchen. She looked at me carefully and said, "Mom, when are you going to smile again?" I froze, because I didn't have an answer. That question followed me all day, and that night I stood in front of the mirror. For the first time in months, I really looked at myself. I saw exhaustion, pain, fear, but I also saw someone who was still standing, someone who had survived every terrible day so far. And suddenly I realized something. I had spent so much time waiting for David to come back that I had forgotten to move forward. The next morning, I updated my resume. A week later, I applied for jobs. A month later, I was hired at a local publishing company. The work wasn't glamorous, but it gave me purpose. It gave me confidence. Most importantly, it reminded me that I was more than someone's wife. Slowly, life began to change. Ethan started smiling again. Lily laughed more often. The house felt lighter. The pain didn't disappear, but it no longer controlled every moment. Years later, people sometimes ask me if I hate David. The answer surprises them. No, I don't hate him, because carrying hate would only keep me trapped in the past. What happened hurt deeply, but it also forced me to discover strength I never knew I had. I learned that being abandoned does not mean being broken. I learned that losing someone does not mean losing yourself. Most importantly, I learned that happiness cannot depend on another person. Real happiness begins when you choose yourself again. Today, my children are thriving. Our home is filled with laughter. And every morning when I look in the mirror, I see something I thought I had lost forever. Peace. If you are going through heartbreak right now, remember this. Sometimes the person who walks away is not the end of your story. Sometimes they are simply the beginning of a new chapter. And that chapter may become the most beautiful one of all.